All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a truly incredible, highly emotional story of resilience today. I want you to close your eyes for a second and just picture it, a towering, imposing mountain, and right at its base, a small, quiet village. This is the world of a young man named Arjun. And look, this isn't just some old tale from a distant land. It's actually a profound blueprint for anyone who's ever felt stuck, undervalued, or just plain exhausted by the daily grind. Today, we're going to break down Arjun's journey to understand the exact mechanics of how the impossible is finally broken. Starting with part 1, the heavy hammer and Arjun's daily grind. Every single morning, way before the sun even thought about rising, Arjun would make this treacherous climb up the mountain. His job was simple, but brutally punishing. We're talking exhausting work, burnt skin from the relentless sun, hands literally covered in deep wounds, and clothes that were little more than torn rags. I really want you to feel the emotional weight of that daily reality for a second. Despite surrendering his body to that mountain day in and day out, every evening he'd come home with barely enough money to feed his family for just one more day. There were no savings, no safety net, just a grueling, endless cycle of survival. But a passing moment of absolute cruelty would ultimately become the inciting incident of his entire life. One day, while Arjun was resting on a rock, just completely exhausted, two wealthy travelers walked by. And they didn't see a hardworking man providing for his family. Nope, they saw a target for their own arrogance. They laughed, pointed right at him, and declared that he'd spent his whole life breaking stones, concluding that some people are simply born to fail. Imagine the sting of those words piercing his heart. Which brings us to section 2, a spark of defiance and a midnight realization. You see, those mocking words didn't just hurt Arjun, they completely haunted him. That night, lying there in the dark, sleep entirely evaded him. The whole rhythm of his life had been interrupted, and this new, faster pulse of realization was starting to beat in his chest. He looked down at his rough, calloused hands and asked himself, is this really my destiny? It's a question with deep emotional resonance, isn't it? Have you ever had one of those 2 a.m. moments where you look at your circumstances and wonder, is this all there is? For Arjun, this wasn't just a fleeting thought. It was a massive pivot point. So the very next morning, Arjun made a promise to himself. He recognized this incredibly profound truth. He could not control where he was born, and he could not control the crushing poverty he inherited. But he absolutely could control how hard he worked. He took complete ownership of his effort. Actually, it's like he realized he couldn't change his starting line, but he had total authority over his pace. Let's move into section 3, the invisible effort, also known as the unglamorous grind. When we look at successful people, we rarely see the years of quiet, unrecognized sacrifice that actually got them there. By day, Arjun was still on that mountain, swinging that heavy hammer. But his mindset completely shifted. He started asking the visiting engineers why they caught rocks in specific ways. He studied the builders. By night, he borrowed old books from a nearby town, studying intensely by the flickering light of a tiny oil lamp while the rest of the village slept. And guys, this didn't go on for days or weeks. This went on for years. His knowledge was growing deep beneath the surface, completely invisible to the naked eye. And of course, the village noticed his new habits. What did they do? They laughed all over again. They threw these lines at him. Books won't change your life. You'll always be a stonecutter. You're dreaming way too big. But what did Arjun do? He never argued back. He didn't waste a single ounce of his energy trying to convince them. He simply smiled, turned back to his books, and kept working. All right, section 4, the breakthrough, where the unseen finally materializes. Well, all those years of unseen effort were about to materialize in a way literally nobody in that village could have predicted. One day, a major bridge construction company rolls into the village. They have this massive project, and they desperately need someone who truly understands the complex geology of that specific mountain. When they asked around, every single finger pointed toward Arjun. And here's the kicker. He wasn't chosen because he was rich. He definitely wasn't chosen because a magical stroke of luck fell from the sky. He was chosen because he relentlessly educated himself in the dark. He understood that mountain better than anyone else alive. That single opportunity triggered a massive snowball effect in his life. First, he was hired as the site supervisor. Then, he eventually became a full-fledged engineer. And years later, Arjun started his very own construction company. He completely rewrote his destiny. And the ultimate irony here, the exact same people who used to mock him by the light of his oil lamp now brought their own children to meet him, hoping just a little bit of his wisdom would rub off on them. Moving right along to Section 5, Secret of the Stone and Wisdom Passed Down. So one of those kids brought to meet him, a little boy, looks up at this wealthy, respected man and asks the exact question we all want the answer to. Sir, what was the secret to your success? Arjun just smiled gently. He bent down, picked up a small, solid stone from the ground, and looked at the boy. He explained that when people watch a stonecutter, they see the stone split open, and they naturally assume it breaks because of that one single, final, powerful strike. But that's a complete illusion. The stone actually breaks because of the very first strike, and the hundreds of unseen, microscopic fractures created by every single swing that came before that final blow. He told the boy that success is exactly the same as breaking a stone. Most folks, they swing their hammer 10 times, maybe 50 times. They don't see the stone cracking, they don't get immediate results, so they quit. But breaking through, true success, belongs to the people who flat out refuse to quit. The ones who keep swinging even when their hands bleed, trusting that those unseen fractures are forming beneath the surface. Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, Your Next Strike and Validating Your Effort. Okay, we've talked a lot about Arjun, but now I want to talk directly to you. What does a strike look like in your life? It's every time you fail and have to try again. It's every rejection email you get, every sleepless night you spend working on your dream while everyone else is resting, every painful sacrifice you make for a better future. Each of these is a strike against the stone of your own impossible mountain. It is incredibly hard, and yeah, it often feels like you are making zero progress. But you are validating your invisible effort every single time you choose to swing again. Here's the absolute truth. The work you do today may not change your life tonight. It might not change your life next week or even next month. But if you hold the line, if you continue to educate yourself, if you keep putting in the work when absolutely no one is clapping for you, one day, all those invisible efforts, all those microscopic fractures will finally come together. And the impossible is finally going to break. The barrier will shatter, and all that built-up potential will be released. You're going to step right into the reality you were quietly building all along. I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought. Success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the person who refuses to quit. So if life feels overwhelmingly difficult right now, remember Arjun. Keep going. Never stop just because you don't see immediate results. Because your very next effort might just be the one that changes absolutely everything. The only question left is, what will your next strike be?